right, welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. We're going to pretend like that first 10 minutes didn't happen, and we're just starting the show all over again. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining me. Let's get right to Matt McChesney, the former Colorado football great, the former NFL player. He's one of the most passionate Colorado football supporters that we know. He does a 0 to 260 podcast that promotes Colorado and everything that Matt does in terms of developing young football players. You guys know Matt from the Coach JB show. You know him from last year, from yelling and screaming at me about Colorado. We're so glad to have Matt back. You know, I get to gloat a little bit, and Matt gets to defend his position a little bit, and we get to entertain you all. Matt, I've been watching your content. It's been fascinating to see you. I don't want to say join me, but you're being more objective, in my opinion, about Deion and the Colorado football program. But don't let me frame you up. Where are you at with the Buffaloes and Deion?
Thanks for having me back on. Where am I at? Look, I can handle losing. It's part of it, right? It's part of football. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. I can't handle getting your doors blown off and then the manipulation of the media and the runaround and dodging questions and not, fixing problems and no accountability. And, it's, in my opinion, when things get hard, especially in college football, even with pay to play and, guys getting broke off with, Caden Salter getting $800,000 and things like that, you still have to be able to fall back on where you're playing. This isn't the National Football League. So the fact that there's, last week after the 53-7 annihilation and 422 yards rushing and the Utah debacle, Coach Prime came out and said something to the effect of, well, the standard's high here because of what I did. And I understand and we haven't won a bowl game since 2004 when I was a senior, and it's been pretty rough over the last 20 years. The move to the Pac-12 was not very smart. I get all that. But to assume and to act like nothing has ever happened here before, and the lack of caring about simple traditions and things that mean a lot to the community is really rubbing me the wrong way. And, the fight song is my main thing with this, but really it's just the overall, the mantra and the way that we do things at that place. Everything could be, if they wanted it to be up there, it all could be encompassed together, Jason. I truly believe this. They could mix what Prime's doing with what's been done and take off and appease everybody, and everyone would be happy. And, the players would understand, even though there's 38 mercenaries on the team and, they're all there for Prime, essentially, they would understand where they're at and where they're playing and, what it means to wear that uniform. And it's just not happening. And it's not just not happening. It's being neglected and shunned and almost like if I were to go up there and talk to the team right now at 3-6 with everybody checking out, I think they would scoff at it and mock it and laugh. And that, in my opinion, is the biggest problem that they have up there. They have talent. I don't know about the coaching staff necessarily. I think that it's a bunch of his buddies. But other than that, I think they have talent to win games. And it's just the fault lines are starting to crack big time. And yeah, you did have a lot to say about this up front, and I was a little blinded by the fact that 9-4 was fun and Heisman Trophy's fun, but there's some big time foundational issues that I think Coach Prime can fix if he would just look himself in the mirror and understand that, he's in charge of all this. So when he says it's on me, well, then you have to go change everything. You can't just expect everyone to just constantly be so enamored with Coach Prime that we're ignoring the fact that things are going downhill in a hurry.
Matt, he says everything's on me. I think the right mindset from 3 years ago should have been everything's on we. And there's
I
got to be a
agree.
we component. And when I see you, and I watched the Chad Brown video this morning about the fight song,
Yep.
and every college football player, whether it's Division III all the way up to the biggest schools in Division I football, everybody has a fight song. And it's a rallying point. It connects you. It connects the current players to Matt McChesney and the players even before him. And that connection and that Deion wanting players come play for me, Deion, rather than come play for Colorado and this great tradition, I saw that as a huge issue that was going to manifest itself over time and erode the team. And Deion is made it too much about Deion, and that can only go so far. If you're not connected to the whole university in a way, it's not sustainable. And so I'm not that surprised when that's how you give up 100 points in 2 weeks. It's a lack of effort. It's not a lack of talent.
And look, the last time that this happened, in '05, at the end of Gary Barnett's tenure, they lost to Nebraska 30-3 at home. They had to remove the student section for throwing batteries at Nebraska. And then and then in the Big 12 title game that year against number 1 Texas, they got beat 70-3. And it was 100-6, and Gary was relieved of his position. Now, in no way, shape, or form do I think Coach Prime is going to get fired. The only way he doesn't have a job there next year is if he does resign because of health reasons or whatever. But the standard has to be the same. You can't look at Gary Barnett 20 years ago and go, you lost 2 games 100-6, and you've been to 4, out of the last 5 Big 12 title games, and you're putting guys into the NFL, and we had 2 bad weeks. You're fired. And then looking at the last 2 weeks here, I think that this team is really talented. Jordan Seaton's a first-round draft pick. Both the Miller kids are good. We've got a deficiency at quarterback, no less, but the O-line is much better. The defense is horrendous. They can't tackle. They don't play hard. There's no rally to the football. There's no pride or passion on that side of the ball. But leading up to these last 2 games, I thought they had the potential to be a pretty good football team and just lost some tight games. I don't know how they fell off this cliff. But I do know, just by talking to people and being around the environment, I don't think they're very serious about actually building a program in Boulder. I think that it's come here and we'll try and get you to the NFL. In fact, that's the way they recruit. We're just going to get you straight to the NFL because this is an NFL college football team, which is not true. They neglect the state. Coach Prime doesn't recruit, which, as a guy who places players all over the country, and when I see Trey Zune, the left tackle at Texas A&M from Fort Collins, as a first-round prospect, and you got guys at Tennessee, and we got guys from last year's class going to USC in Oklahoma, and Jackson Roper's going to Alabama, and like my boy Nick got invited down there this weekend, so we're headed down to Tuscaloosa to watch that game as recruits, and Coach Prime doesn't go out on the road in Colorado to recruit. He doesn't. I don't think that they really understand where they are. Like, we're not in Miami. We're not in Florida. This isn't a hotbed. You've got to identify talent here and lock it down and not let it leave, or you're going to end up playing it. And the reluctance, we'll put it like this. Reese Russell, okay, and Hannibal Navies Jr., okay. Hannibal played linebacker at CU back in the day and played in the NFL. Matt Russell won the Buckus at CU back in the day, linebacker. Both their son, Hannibal is up there with his son this weekend, looked distraught. Like we had to talk each other off of a ledge. Matt won't even go up there. Reese got offered by CU number like 18 or 19, and he's going to end up probably going to Nebraska or Washington. Do you understand how just much power it would be if Prime walked into Valor High School and walked up to Reese Russell and said, "Your dad was a great there. There's no way we're going to let you go to our rival. You got to come to, like, we're going to recruit the shit out of you, young man." And it just, this assumption that everybody is going to just blindly follow, I don't understand it at all. His power is how he makes other people feel around him. And I think he's lost a little bit of that since he got there, because now it's just all about come see me. I'm not going out on the road. I know he's got some health issues, but he's far from the first coach to have to deal with that kind of stuff. And I do admire his toughness. And I honestly wish that the football team and the men on that staff and in the locker room would try and like follow that example a little bit more and be tougher and tougher minded and show up for their coach. But there's a big time disconnect. And when it gets hard, I think all you really have to fall back on in college football is the foundation that's been built by others, the tradition, the camaraderie that's supposed to be together. You brought it up when we were talking, Jason. Like, the fight song is 26 words, man. And the country club, fucking frat boy version that we hear in the stadium, where it's just, the you got your sweater vest around your neck and frat boys are singing. That's the country club version. That's not the way we do things there. So it's all about bringing the team together and bringing the outsiders that just got to the facility and to the team with the 38 mercenaries, bringing them into the fold and teaching them how we do things. And it's glue yourselves together, and they're your brothers now, and everybody's gone through camp together, and now we get to go attack the season together. And it's a team thing, and the reluctance to even learn about the past, to pay any homage to it, I think that's one of the reasons why when it gets hard up there, they don't have Shador and Travis anymore to fall back on. That you're seeing fractures in the foundation because of it, because guys don't know where they are. And in order to really move forward and get better, they've got to start paying homage to, I know Colorado's a flyover state, but to act like there's nobody here that they should be recruiting is just naive. And then to not pay homage to anything that's ever happened in the past isolates all the alum, and it makes people question, is this Coach Prime University or is this the University of Colorado coached by Deion Sanders?
You have, I think I saw it on your own show, not on JB's show. You've indicated that there's going to be changes to the coaching staff, perhaps the entire coaching staff cleaned out. Could you expound on that?
I just don't see how they can't. Like, I'm shocked that Pat Schumer still has his job. I don't see anybody else giving him another opportunity in college or the NFL. I'm stunned that he still has a job, especially with how quick Coach Prime in year one was to get rid of Coach Lewis at San Diego State now. And I know Coach Lewis wanted to be a head coach,
San Diego
but
State,
he came in from a head coaching position at Kent State to take the OC job and only lasted half a year. And that's because he's not a yes man, period. So I look, I've got some friends on that staff. I've also got guys that, they don't talk to anybody, and it's very smug and it's very like standoffish, and it's like that with the fans and the recruits. And I think that there's a disconnect between, just because you're a great football player and you got a gold jacket or whatever, you're just a person. You're just a coach there now. You have to be, open to communication and recruiting and things of that nature. So I don't see how we can look at the staff and say that they're helping Coach Prime. And I don't think Coach Prime is helping them necessarily. I think that when you put yourself in a situation where you're surrounded by your friends, when it gets hard, are you going to fire them? And I don't think that's going to happen. I think they believe in the room that they can just sit there and tell the college kids in that room that are struggling right now what to do instead of showing them how to do it. And when you've got Falk and Sapp and Pecco and all these ex-pros, and those guys, they figured out how to do their jobs at a high level. You don't really have to coach Warren Sapp once he's figured it out, or Pecco or Marshall Falk. You just have to get out of their way. Well, in college, you got to coach what you're preaching, and you have to get in the trench with them and teach them and show them that you care, because 99% of them are not going to the league. This is it. So, yeah, I think that the coaching staff needs to be extremely evaluated hard. And if they don't make a bunch of changes, then they don't want to get better, because this is not acceptable. The close wins, or the close losses, mind you, the 27-20, the close loss at TCU, the close loss against BYU, if they're better coached and there's more discipline and detail and attention to it, they win those games. Period. So I think it all comes back to your ability to simply, articulate what you want to your players, but then you have to show them. Coach Sapp and Coach Pecco, if your three techniques and one techniques can't play the point and don't know the, why they're double teaming you and how they're climbing and what the, the little intricacies of the other team's run game is and how they're trying to stretch you or move you vertically, and you can't get down and show them how to do it day in and day out, rep in and rep out, and you just say, hey, three technique, do your job, play your key, make a play. Well, that's easy for Warren Sapp. It's not so easy for the guys they have up there that are trying to learn how to do it at a consistent level that is, high enough to appease the gold jackets that are in the coaching staff. So there's a massive disconnect. And then also, Jason, I'm going to say this, and this is probably not going to go over too well, but I don't really care anymore. I'm also questioning how many of these guys need the job. Because I talked about this on my show countless times, and I preach this to everybody I work with down here, from the NFL players I work with to the high school kids that come in to sign up and start their journey. Are you a like football guy, or are you a need football guy? And I think some of the coaches up there and a ton of the players like football. They like coaching. They like playing for CU until they don't. Until it's hard or it's cold or it's, we don't want to be here today, or the bye week where everyone's just going to disperse and go fishing instead of really focus on Utah. And then there's need. And I don't see a lot of guys up there that need it, that need to win, to breathe. Like, when you've accomplished literally everything and now you're being put under a microscope and people are saying what you've done in the past doesn't mean anything, it's about right now. I think that there's a large contingent of folks up there that are like, well, last year wasn't good enough. You guys have been terrible for 20 years, so you're not going to give us a break? We're still rebuilding. There's no rebuild after going 9-4 and winning a Heisman. You should be taking off, not rebuilding. So, yeah, man, I think that there's a big disconnect, and I don't understand why they're so reluctant to embrace what it means to be a Colorado Buffalo.
Because if you embrace what it means to be a Colorado Buffalo, if you connect with the history, then now there is a standard that's been set. Hey, we won a national championship here. Hey, we've won conference titles here. But if you reduce it down to the previous coach only won one game, now the standards are lower. You don't have to jump as high. And so that it's all connected. You don't want to connect with the history, because the history sets a standard and sets a bar. It sets a target for you. Now, if you remove the history, disconnect from it, now you get to set the standard year by year. And now where I would, I think Warren Sapp would argue that he needs coaching. He needs a second career. And so, I'm friends with Warren Sapp. I'm a tiny bit defensive, but I'm always going to let people speak, particularly people that are much closer and watching much closer than I, speak their truth. And that I found it interesting. People are saying no way Deion leaves after this year. I think you even believe he's going to stick around. But this loyalty to the coaching staff may give him an out. People above Deion may say, hey, look, you got a bad coaching staff. Some of these guys got to go. And Deion can then say, hey, they tried to make me change up my coaching staff. I drew a line in the sand. And if these guys got to go, I'm going with them.
Hmm. Um, I mean, look, that's some NFL stuff right there, Jason. That's the way it worked. When Mike Shanahan was told back in the day to restaff and get rid of Rhodes, he just said, "Fire me." Um, I don't see him leaving. I don't think he wants to go out. Look, personally, I don't. I hope Juju can figure it out, but on the road at West Virginia at 10 a.m. in the rain is going to be pretty tough for your first start. And then they've got conference champion Arizona State, who, Dillingham lost his first round quarterback. If that's the way you feel about Levitt, and totally changed their game plan and went 28 carries for 228 yards and 2 touchdowns with Sims, a guy who used to play for Nebraska, who CU ate up 2 years ago, who I didn't think could play. But I'm telling you, when he was put in the right system, he sure looked good. And that I just there's something in Boulder that I feel like Prime will stay. But if he does end up leaving, you got to look at the 3 years as just kind of like I don't know if it's a failed experiment necessarily. I don't know how successful it is though either. It seems to me, if he's the competitor I think he is, and the gentlemen on that staff are the competitors I think they are, they will do everything humanly possible to right this ship, which means changing. The great Don Shula got his little book of coaching right here. Okay. The Don Shula little book of coaching. My dad gave me this 30 years ago. And inside that book, and I read it almost every day, there's a quote. It says, "Your plan is only as good as the ability to change it." And the fact that they won't look themselves in the mirror from a scheme perspective, offensively and defensively, a personnel perspective, offensively and defensively, a coaching staff perspective, offensively and defensively, the fact that they won't change anything is what people are frustrated about. The fact that they talk about, Coach Prime in his video at halftime, he's talking about, where's your pride? Where's your passion? Where's the brotherhood? When are you going to fight for the guy next to you? Well, everything that I'm trying to instill from day one, when I met with him right after he got hired, and I walked upstairs and it was the first meeting, pretty much the first thing I said to him was, let me come in and talk to all your new guys about where they're at and what it means to be here. And I think they heard that and they thought, oh, this guy's going to bring in some loser mentality because we've been losing. But that's not the generation I was a part of or raised on. So if they're unwilling to accept help in the community that can help them and they won't change anything, as a business owner, that's the number one recipe for disaster. So I'm watching the plane veer towards the mountain here, and I'm in the back like, yo, I don't have a parachute and we need to turn. Let's change something. And everyone's like, we're good. We'll clear it. And we're not. So I don't know the answer here. I'm pretty concerned that, that if God forbid, Jason, and everybody listening and everyone's going to watch 0 to 60 later, if they go to Morgantown, which Rich Rodriguez is the head coach, and a guy who, left West Virginia, did not have a very good 12, 15-year run and came back and is trying to rebuild it, understands the history and tradition of that place, country roads and whatnot. Well, they just put 45 on a team in Houston that physically dominated us earlier in the year in Houston. They're going to try and score half 100, if not more. And then they've got Arizona State at home, who is playing for a playoff spot in the same position they were in last year and just needs some help. A bye week, which we know, some of the information that I got over the bye week, how, they weren't really getting ready for Utah. They were just kind of practicing against themselves, and everybody got to go home early and blah, 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 blah. I don't have a lot of faith going into the bye week that we're going to actually go to Manhattan, which is a very, very tough place to play historically. CU Kansas State. I don't think the kids really understand the relevance of that old Big 12 North rivalry and how much the people in Manhattan hate us and the bad blood there. So I think that so much of college football It's like Kalen DeBoer walking into Alabama and just being like, everything that happened before, gone. Brian Kelly did that at LSU, didn't work. That there's places that you can actually fall back on the history and the tradition, and it will help you move forward. And CU is one of those places. And if you completely neglect everybody and you don't want anybody around that's going to call you or disagree with you, eventually you're just going to be in a room trying to solve a problem with a bunch of people staring at you, but you employ them to help you solve the problem. And they're all looking at you like, tell us what to do, daddy. And he's like, well, I need some help now, but I employed the wrong people to help me. So I'm pretty passionate about this, bro, and I'm pretty upset about it. And I didn't expect it to happen like this, but you know, when your fan hat is on and you're happy with what's going on in front of you and you think they're turning the corner, I was defending that last year, but I can't defend it anymore. It's got to be fixed, and then it can be defended. But until it's fixed, I don't really know what they expect people with eyeballs and conscious thought about football to say. Really, like what exactly am I supposed to sugarcoat here? How does it work?
Last year, I think when you came on with me, you got a lot of blowback from hardcore CU fans that have been with the program for a long time. I think there were a lot of former players that wanted to lean into Deion and were like, "Hey, don't go on with Whitlock or anyone that's critical of Deion." Where do you think the long hardcore fans and the players that are loyalists, where do you think they're at right now in terms of frustration, belief in the future as it relates to Deion and this experiment?
Uh, Well, I've never really seen it like this in any fan base ever. The only thing I can really relate to is when my last year in the NFL when we drafted Tim Tebow here in Denver, and there was a massive break in the Bronco fan base, which I had never seen before being from here and being an Elway fanatic and just knowing the history of the franchise. There was a break between people that supported Tebow. You couldn't say anything about him, and you remember this time period, and he was special, and he's going to take him to the promised land. But Tebow's bigger than the Broncos. So if you're a Broncos supporter, you hate Tebow. I think that's going on in Boulder big time right now. And Coach JB and I have turned them prime sexuals, and people hate that term, but I don't really care. I had multiple prime sexuals walk up to me in Folsom on Saturday night, like, we love the show, we love what you're talking about, keep doing it, blah 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 blah. So there was a bit. I think there was a bigger disconnect last year when like the Kansas game, when you criticize that, or the BYU game, or the K-State game, and people are like, well, he's doing a great job, how dare you criticize him? There doesn't need to be a break, but there is. There's the new fan that is showing up because they follow Coach Prime to see you, and we're happy to have you. We're glad you're there. And then there's the real CU fans that are going to be a fan whether Carl Durrell's the coach or Mike Sanford or Mel Tucker or McIntyre or Coach Mack or New. It doesn't matter. Whoever the coach is who the coach is. We're going to ride in and try and support. The break in the fan base is insane. And I watch it every time I go to the games. And I usually sit with the recruits because my kid's a recruit. And I just observe. And, by halftime this week, all the recruits were gone. The stadium was empty, and people were laughing. And it's like, see, all my ex teammates are there, and everybody's having a good time. And it's turned into like, well, look where we are again. This is just what it is. I can't believe this is happening again, and no one's going to change anything. And now there's such a disconnect because Coach Prime and I hate to say this, but like that faction thinks that they're being attacked and you can't criticize them. And the media in Denver and in Boulder, with the exception of maybe Brian Howell, who's their beat writer, and they throw layups at press conferences. And it's like, how do I make sure I keep my access? If you remember, and there's a lot of people that don't like Sean Keeler in Denver. Okay. And I've known Sean for a long time, and I I had a real problem with them banning him from press conferences. I think that's anti-American. It's his job to ask hard questions. When that happened, it scared the absolute dog out of everybody else around here that goes to the press conferences, and it's all layups. And it's coming around the mountain when they come, and it's on me, and I'm coming, and it's like Coach Prime is a genius and can manipulate the media like very few, and he's convinced every media member in Boulder and Denver that they're buddies instead of doing their job. So he's never forced to answer any hard questions from them. He dictates the tone of the press conference, and if you get on their bad side, they blackball you. Now, people keep telling me I'm going to get blackballed. That ain't happening. I'm in the recruiting and development business. I'm in the truth business. I've got friends on the staff. In fact, I think that some of the guys up there respect the fact that I actually have the stones to say what I mean, good, bad, or indifferent. So I'd like to think that they can fix this, but until the fraction stops, until the prime sexuals and the CU fans can all come together and figure out how to move forward, which again, if you notice, I keep talking about coming together, not breaking apart. That's all I'm trying to do, is to get everybody to realize you're playing for the name on the front of your jersey. The name on the back of your jersey, yeah, honor it. That's great. But this is who we are while we're here. This is who we are. The name on the back of your jersey that's who you are outside of this room and your parents and everybody else. But damn it, it says Colorado across the front, and that's the only consistent in the entire room with everybody here. Every coach, every player, everyone's different. They all come from different backgrounds, but the only thing that brings us together is that. So little things like the fight song and the pride and tradition of the Colorado Buffaloes will never be entrusted to the timid or the weak. I doubt people up there can even reiterate that. They don't understand why it's so important. And if you don't get it, how are you ever going to be in position to receive it? You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand why they want it that way. I don't understand why they think that like spite and like smugness are the way to attract the right people. Um, in his press conference the other day when he said, if you're a dog, you're going to come here. If you're a cat, you're going to run away from the scoreboard. Bro, that's not Carl Durrell's team out there at 111 getting massacred. That's your football team. And the recruits in the stands are leaving. They left in front of me. Everybody cleared out. So it's not that people are going to run from it. They don't want to be part of that. What recruit is, if you're a big time recruit and that's how they're trying to recruit and it's working to a point, if you're getting recruited by all these different schools, SC and Nebraska and Ohio State and Michigan and blah, 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 and then you want to see if they're on the level, and you go there and it's 17-0 in 3 minutes and they just got beat 53-7 and the players are walking off the field at halftime. This is the new thing in Boulder. Hey, how you doing, Jason? I'm good, dog. Everybody's covering their mouth. Everyone's snickering and laughing. Like, I had to go for a walk at halftime so I didn't start yelling at everybody on the field like, could you take this seriously? Because it's not important to them at the fundamental level. Everybody there, with the exception of maybe 5 guys, has been blatantly lied to think that they're going to get to the NFL.
Matt, any concern? Let's think, as men do, we think about worst case scenarios and how to avoid it, but we do think about, like, okay, if this really goes bad, what are the ramifications? And my concern, if I was a Colorado fan, would be, man, we went all in on Deion. Will this administration, if Deion walks away or is fired, will this administration go all in on the next coach, and the finances and everything just keeps escalating in college football, and everybody went all in on Deion Sanders? Will they do the exact same thing for the next coach, or will there be some hesitancy of like, man, we just got burned, we owe Deion all this money? Any concern that there could be irrevocable or really serious damage done in the aftermath?
Um, yeah, I mean, just judging off the past, and look, it was different because of, they didn't have salary caps, so you couldn't pay the players and whatnot. But CU's always had a funding problem. They've always had people don't really give Coach McCartney and Neuheisel and Coach Barnett the proper props of how they kept that place so competitive and rolling when the administration and the state really, for forever, you couldn't sign an assistant coach to more than a 1-year contract in Colorado, just because of the state legislature and how they mandated that. So they had to change that, and they got that changed. And I feel like they're committed to it, but they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Everything up there is controlled, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be, by the head football coach. So he essentially has the keys to the castle, and if whatever he wants up there, he's going to get. If he wants to just not go recruit, and he wants to just kind of hang out and wait for people to come to him, no one's going to push him to go do it every differently. You brought up earlier that they may tell him that he has to restaff. I don't see that ever happening. I don't think Rick George and the administration above is going to do anything to piss Deion off. That's going to be, the community and the media are going to have to push that in order to get anything done. If Coach Prime were to walk away, selfishly, I hope, if that were to happen, I hope that he would resign so they wouldn't have to pay him. And that's just, that's just the way it is.
Deion leaving without the money?
Well, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I know that's one of them. That's why I said it. So, if I were him and he just signed a 5-year, $60 million contract, I would make them fire me. But at the same time, knowing him and just the people that are on the staff, don't you guys want to fix this? Don't you want to stop being the laughing stock of everybody who said you couldn't do it? At what point is it going to be important enough to change so you can fix it? Because what we're doing right now is the definition of insanity, the same thing over and over again. You don't have Shador, you don't have Travis, Jimmy and Wester and all them boys are gone. You didn't pay Hood. You let Hill Green go to Alabama. The transfer portal guys you brought in are turds. Turds. They can't play. You got 38 mercenaries on your team that don't give a damn about where they're playing. They just think they're special because Coach Prime brought them in. And, if they can't figure out a way to change this, what's going to change, Jason, is the market. Kids aren't going to want to come here anymore for this. The kids see through this faster than we do. The recruits that I've tried to push to them till I'm blue in the face, bro. Jackson Roper is the #1 player in the state of Colorado. He's a 4-star, 6'6", 310-pounder. His dad played at Utah State back in the day. Great student. Has like 20 offers. Alabama and A&M and Ole Miss and Nebraska and Ohio State and Michigan. You know who didn't offer him? CU. They haven't offered him. They don't talk to him. And he's one of my guys. And I probably sent him information on him 150 times. How do we get up there in front of you? How do we make this happen? What do we need to do? Nothing. Crickets. So the community, the fan base, and the pressure there is that's what's gonna change things if it does ever change. But I don't know. I don't usually, when nepotism and narcissism is involved at this level, it's really, really hard to get anybody to change doing anything. So I don't know how much longer this can ride, bro. If they lose to West Virginia the way I think that they could, and Arizona State and Dillingham and that group walks in here, and I mean, the last time they played us was the watch thing in Arizona. I'm sure they're going to remember that and try and get us when we're down. And then again, K-State in Manhattan, regardless if they're having a good year or not, that might be for bowl eligibility for them. That you take 5 straight losses at looking like it's Carl Durrell's football team. That the kids aren't going to want to come. The parents aren't going to let them come. People are going to start looking through this from a distance rather than up close, and it's going to turn when Coach Prime then has to look inward and go, okay, I'm good. I'm not going to get fired. The only way I leave is if I leave, and I'm not going to do that. And now I have to start firing my friends, bro. That it's going to get super contentious, and I don't know where that's going to lead. This is a very interesting conundrum we find ourselves in. I hope they
It's
can fix it.
it's fascinating. It's you said something interesting that Rick George probably afraid to say anything to Deion. And I'm doing this sincerely. You can punt on this question because I feel like I'm putting you in a tough spot, but it's the kind of questions we ask here. Is part of the fear of Deion from a Rick George and other people, is it like, oh man, Deion is capable of playing the race card on us
Hmm.
and capable of saying, oh man, you know how race it is in Boulder, and they never wanted me from the beginning. They wouldn't give me this, they wouldn't give me that. Is that part of Rick George's potential fear?
Um, I mean, I don't think Rick thinks like that, but as a black man in Boulder, you can't not, because it's been part of the narrative there for how long? You even brought it up. I mean, before, when I played there, it was part of the narrative. When they hired Mel Tucker, it was part of the narrative. When they hired John Embry, it was part of the narrative. When they hired Carl Durrell, it was part of the narrative. Um, I don't know if it's right, wrong, or indifferent. It's kind of the world we live in. I don't think that Coach Prime would necessarily play that card. Um,
Yes, he would.
Look, the only colors that really matter are black and gold, and that again, it all comes back to this. It all comes back to where we're at, not who we are. Just like what you said at the beginning of the show. It's if there's big time foundational cracks, that kind of narrative and those kind of people that are going to stoke it are going to seep in, and it's going to be easy to fuel. But if they can figure out a way to come together and be more of a solidified front, and he is the head coach at the University of Colorado, and it's Coach Prime's baby, and we're rolling, and everybody here is black and gold, and we're all in this together, and that's the kind of stuff that needs to be. That's the narrative that needs to be set in Boulder, in my opinion. So rather than running from the question, I'll try and answer it the best I can. I don't think that would be a thing, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm not in the meeting room up there. So the few times that I've met with them in the past, last year when I got the opportunity to go uh, interview for the offensive line position, it wasn't an interview, bro. It was just, that you're not going to fit with what we're trying to do up here. Sorry. And I don't know what that's probably a football thing. That's the way I would look at it, at least. So, um,
Isn't it? And look, man, I'm not trying to put you in a bad spot,
no, it's
but
cool. It's cool.
isn't they got white coordinators and virtually all the other coaches are black? Isn't that the decision makers are white and then the worker bees are black on their coaching staff? Is that am I accurate there? I don't know the
I
whole
mean
coaching.
they're the OC and the DCR white dudes, that's for
Yeah,
sure. And all the assistant guys other than George and Gunner. I didn't really notice that. That's also true. They're all black dudes.
Deion's got a script, and he's got a bunch of guys that help him play it, from Shannon Sharp to Stephen A. Smith to Ryan Clark to RG3. I think this thing could really get ugly if, and he's got him over a barrel.
I think that definitely the University of Colorado is Black America's football team, and that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. If if they can figure out how to turn it around, because nobody wants to be associated with somebody getting their ass kicked every weekend, regardless of color, creed, race, religion. It doesn't matter at that point. You're just losing. Um, I kind of I think I need to think about this one a little bit more before I give you a real answer. I'd
I'm gonna
like to
let you and
think that
JB talk about it.
yeah, oh boy, shit. I don't know if I want to go down that road with him. I'll put it like this. I think that they have the ability to hire good coaches, and I would hope that it's all about the ability to coach and not necessarily the color of your skin, your race, religion, or creed. So I can't imagine that would be a motivating factor for Coach Prime and the men up there, knowing, the world that they're from. I love football so much. The physicality is the real reason I love it, but the second reason is the melting pot, bro. Like being around so many different people from so many different places, and finding out that we're all pretty much just the same. We're just blood, guts, and flesh, and it just happened to be a different color sometimes. So I would hope that they're not going down that road in Boulder, but it is something that is discussed. That's for damn sure, just like we are. Is that
Hey,
Steve Kim? That is
did
Steve
I
Kim.
hear
Hi,
Steve
Steve
Kim
Kim.
cackling? Did I hear Steve Kim cackling? Did I hear that?
Hey,
Yeah,
you said some nice stuff about me the other day, Steve. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. I
Hey,
thought
Oh,
I
man, I
man.
heard the
wanted
cricket.
to bring you guys together. I mean, come on. I'm just watching this and I'm enjoying this. I got to give all credit to me. I mean, I made this happen. I need to be sent to the Middle East so we have everlasting peace. Because, God, this is so good to see.
It is. It is. And I was a huge dick beforehand. I apologize about that, Jason.
It's all
Um,
good, man. It's all
but look,
good.
look. I think CU has I look at this as an opportunity. Okay, even though it's bad right now and the whole world's against you, and people can even think I'm against them. I'm not. I bleed black and gold, bro. I want nothing more for this to work. I want Coach Prime to be the coach there forever. I don't care if we win 9, 10, 11 games a year, they could put the whole damn team on the stadium for all I care. Just let's win some football games. I don't give a damn. I don't really care how we do it as long as we're doing it together. Good soldiers have the ability to block out all the bullshit, and that's what they need up there is good soldiers. And right now, I think they've got a bunch of guys who think they're all generals instead of just one general and a bunch of soldiers. But then the general's got to lead. So the ability to fix this, I think, would be very intriguing to the football player and the coach. So I think that Coach Prime, and I got to believe this in my heart, is trying undoubtedly to fix the problem. But until you identify the problem, it's going to continue to be a problem. So the fact that they can't identify who they are, they don't have an identity on offense. They don't have an identity on defense. They don't have an identity with the exception of like just recruiting skill players hard, other than Jordan Seaton. They don't have an identity in recruiting. It's They've got to figure out who they want to be. If you don't want to be the old school Colorado Buffaloes and you don't want to honor the fight song, the fact that they don't sing it after wins, but like the Iowa State thing, I know that all the kids were having fun afterwards singing rap songs and whatnot. Can we do that after we honor the place that you're at?
Well,
Like,
you just went to the last question. I was going to ask you about the rappers because this is what bothers me about Deion and just I know I'm just a former Ball State football player, and I the reason why I can relate to you is because I had for a long time the exact same level of passion for Ball State that you have for Colorado, and the yelling and screaming you did at me. I was capable of doing that to people that got on the wrong side of me about Ball State, and particularly when Brady Hoke was our head coach. He's a former Ball State Cardinal. He takes us to an undefeated season. I was a nut job and went after people that came anywhere near criticizing Brady Hoke. But what drives me crazy is when I watch Colorado is the rappers in the locker room after the game. And the locker room in a right culture when the team's going, it's a special place. It's only for us, the players and the people in the trenches in this war. and you do rally around that fight song, and I'm like, they got some dude in here named Big Plug, the Punisher, Big X, the Plug, and all these other rappers, and I'm like, what do they got to do with Colorado football? And why as many great former players as Colorado has, why aren't they in the locker room singing the fight song with the current players? Instead, I got some rapper cursing and rhyming and all this stuff. It drove me crazy, and I'm just wondering, is that been part of your irritation, frustration, and other players? Like, the rappers are closer to this team than we are. This is crazy.
In the beginning, no. I'm not gonna lie. When they opened at TCU, so I didn't go to that game. I was at home. The next week, his home opener was the game against Nebraska. Matt Rule's first go, Bryant's first go at each other. They ended up winning that game 36-14, went off. It was an incredible day. I'm hanging out with Wu-Tang on the sideline and Cameron, and I was pretty enamored with it at the start. Then I started to actually view what was happening. And they started 3-0 and finished 4-8. And by the time they were 3-4, 3-5, everybody evacuated. No one started showing up anymore. There were no more rappers in the locker room. Nobody wanted to be there. All the celebrities are gone. They started showing up again next year when they started winning. Had a couple more instances after the Baylor game and whatnot where they're in the locker room and pretty much a private concert for the kids, which is cool. I don't really have a problem with it. Other than they're not doing the whole gambit. It's just like, okay, well, all Eyes on Me is now the fight song. And there's a lot of people in the room that don't relate to this at all, but the fight song relates to us all. So I also think, and I don't really care if all the famous people don't like this shit. I don't know any of y'all. I think there's a bunch of clout chasers. I don't really think that Coach Prime is really friends with all these guys the way he says he is. I think it's just a bunch of people that want to ride his coattails and he thinks they're their buddies. And honestly, I don't know if, like, I want 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, 21-year-old kids in college. They can listen to whatever they want. They can idolize whoever they want. I don't know if I necessarily want my players hanging out with Big X the Plug after the game. I wonder what they're doing. So I also, as a godless heathen atheist, I can't help but call out the hypocrisy of it. So with him being as religious as he is and not cursing, then to bring in guys who say MF or every other word, and I try not to curse on purpose.
And they're gay. And he's bringing in gay rappers, Diddy guys. They've all taken it up the rear end. That's how they get those deals. But go ahead.
I don't know if they're gay or not, but hey, who knows? I know that I don't really like a lot of the hip hop, so that also doesn't help me personally. But I just think that Coach Prime needs to close his ranks a little bit, and sometimes your friends and the coattail, writers are not necessarily the people that are going to be there to have your back when it gets hard. And we'll take it back to like and need. When everyone likes it, it's fun. But when I need your support because we're bad, everyone's gone. And one thing that I really pride myself with is I don't care if we're 1-11 or 11-1. I don't care if we're getting beat down or if we're beating someone down. I'm going to continue to try and put good players in front of them. I'm going to continue to try and support, even if it's critical. Because if you can't criticize something, you don't really love it. You're not trying to help it. So I hope to God, and I pray to God that they can figure out a way to right this ship, and they need to do it now. Because if they walk in with the same laissez-faire attitude and this doesn't matter and we're just going to go to West Virginia and play and win, West Virginia is going to beat us 70-10. And then I mean, what, you're coming home to play Arizona State? You expect people to go to the game and support? Like, Coach Prime needs to understand that Colorado was here a long time before him, and it's going to be here a long time after him. And he can either put his mark on the place for his 10-year stretch and be revered as the guy who pulled us out of purgatory and put us on the right path in the new Big 12 to go be dominant. And maybe, if he can figure out a way to string a couple winning seasons together with all the hype that comes around it and all the eyes, when the bigger conferences start selecting those schools to jump, maybe CU's in that jump. And that's what we want. So everybody just wants to win. How we get there is a point of contention in Boulder these days. And what I find amazing is it's not about football. We're not really talking about X's and O's. We're not talking about players and scheme. We're talking about like feelings and emotions, and if Coach Prime feels this and if his coaching staff feels that. And it's very Girl Scoutish to me. Like, I got to make sure everybody feels okay today so we can get something done, rather than I'm going to walk out and put my foot in someone's ass and we're getting the work done, or I got to find someone else.
He's turned it into a gay program with sodomites coming in there rapping
my God. I'm not going there. Ain't nothing gay about CU, but I'll let you go with it, I guess.
Matt, thank you. I hope Joel Klatt watched this, and because you've set the standard for how to come on here and own the fact that Deion's a fugazi. Thank you, Matt. And by fugazi, I'm using the Italian term. It's fraudulent. I'm not calling Deion gay. He is running a gay football program filled with sodomites and rappers that come in and entertain the kids. That's just a fact. Steve Kim. Steve, you still there?
Steve? Oh, you poured it on at the end. I thought Utah poured it on at the end against Colorado. The last, I thought, like, what a cordial discussion. It was very constructive. You guys came together. You broke bread. And then the last 2 minutes, God, come on, Jit. You really put Matt on the spot there with that.
He handled it well, though. He handled it very well.
I didn't see him disagreeing either.
Yeah, this is how men should be able to fight each other and come together and let bygones be bygones. Look, I'm gonna be wrong about things and have to admit when I'm wrong. I appreciate Matt doing the same thing. Steve, give me a second before I'm gonna let you react to the interview and then some other stuff. But we've gone long here. We had a little problems at the beginning. I got to thank our sponsor. The reason we were able to do this show today and to have this interview with Matt and have that discussion is because we have great sponsors like PreBorn. And PreBorn is very consistent, is the most consistent with our worldview here at Fearless, that life begins at conception. And the best way we can honor God is by honoring and supporting and making sure the life that God grants us inside a woman's womb is protected. PreBorn supports expectant mothers who are considering abortion, giving them an ultrasound that introduces that baby's heartbeat, that baby's image to the mother. Now she is twice as likely to choose life, and that's when PreBorn steps up, supports that woman and child for up to 2 years. They're able to do it because we do what we're supposed to do, and that's support PreBorn with our donations and gifts. Every ultrasound is $28. Whether you give $28, $280, $2,800, whether you give monthly or it's a one-time donation, it all goes to saving babies' lives. The money's not wasted. I've introduced you guys to Dan Steiner. I've had Dan Steiner at my house. I've spent time with Dan Steiner, who founded PreBorn. Our money's not being wasted. It's saving babies' lives. If you want to feel good about yourself, you want to put a smile on God's face, if you want to send a little note to God that says, hey, I'm trying to obey you, give to PreBorn. Dial pound 250 on your smartphone, say the keyword baby, pound 250, the keyword baby, or give the way that I prefer to give by going to preborn.com/fearless. That's preborn.com/fearless. All right, well, let's return to Steve Kim and reflect. Steve, your serious thoughts about my conversation with Matt McChesney.
Oh, I loved it. And I respect the fact that Matt is giving himself the option of changing his opinion and mind after more information comes out. I think that it's the intelligent way to go through life. And Jason, his frustration is really nothing new. Players that are still bound to the program and love their alumni and have a great deal of loyalty to the program, they want to see it do well. And his view is, look, I was there when it's 1-11, and I'm going to be there after Deion Sanders. But I don't want to go another 10 years of 1-10, 3-8, 3-9. If Coach Sanders just decides, okay, I'm done, I've made my money, that's what he's afraid of, is that are we actually setting any type of foundation that can work? And let me give you another example. I've spoken to a few former Miami Hurricanes. They're very upset at Mario Cristobal. And Mario, you can't say is not a serious coach or is not committed to the program. He wants to make it work. But the bottom line is they're not happy with the results. They want the program to do well. And if they see things that they do not like, at least in private, they will say it. Now, I give Big Mac credit for being public, and he's very recognizable, and he still goes out to the games. But, Jason, this is what I love about college football when the tradition is done right, is that somebody who played in the 50s will somehow be connected to someone who plays today. It's like a chain link, or it's like a link, right? So for Colorado, Dave Logan going to Darian Hagan, Rashawn Salam, Alfred Williams, Michael Westbrook, all the way to the players of the when Matt McChesney played and his teammates, and to the players maybe now, they're all linked together, right? They're all bound by the same DNA. And I think what Matt's saying is the players today may not even care about the guys who came 3 years before them. And I think that hurts him to his core because he is a traditionalist in a lot of sense when it comes to college football.
I find Matt very relatable, very authentic. And again, that includes when he was going after me. I can relate to that.
Called you curdled milk. He called you curdled milk. I was like, come on. Now, let me just relate a story. When I was in Nashville about, 3-4 years ago, it was a college football Saturday. We went to your friend's sports bar, which was one of the best I've ever been to, by the way. All these other games going on, top 25 games. You were on your tablet watching Ball State. And I'm thinking, wow, you really do care about your Cardinals. It's like you were really, you didn't even lift your face up. You were into that game. And then maybe afterwards you peek your head up a little bit. And I'm thinking that is probably the way a lot of guys are from your era. But I wonder about the player that's on his third school in 5 years. What school do they actually associate with? Not that it matters. Maybe it's just about the money and the NIL. Now, Jason, what have I been saying for at least 2 years? Any coach that does not leave their office or their home to recruit is not cut out for that job. I don't care about his health, because this was even before his health was an issue. He simply said, no, let them visit me. Now, I remember when he flipped Cormani McClain from Miami. Now, Cormani McClain in that year was considered a top 10 5-star player and the number one cornerback. So when he flipped him and he got Jordan Seaton, there was a fear throughout college football, like, oh God, with Deion's personality and his brand and his identity, he's just going to pick and choose whoever he wants. Well, it turns out, unless you're dealing at the upper levels of the NIL budget and your collective can raise, let's say, top 5 type of money, you better actually work at this. So unless Deion comes into a situation like Texas Tech, and they have a booster by the name of Cody Campbell that's financing most of this, and they're putting together a great roster, right? And I'm pretty sure a lot of those kids, I don't think they're there for Lubbock, right? Well, here's the thing with Deion. If you're dealing with a mediocre collective and you don't have a lot of money and you're lazy, Jason, how's he ever going to build a roster?
Steve, I want to pick up on your point as it relates to Deion's health. RG3, I played this clip already. We're going to play it again. Yeah. RG3 has started playing the health card for Deion Sanders. Play the clip.
With Colorado, it's not as much about the X's and the O's, and trust me, there's some problems with the X's and the O's. But I think it's more of the human element of what's going on with them right now.
Okay.
Deion Sanders is going through a lot. especially with his health.
Yes.
His health, he had a cancer diagnosis. He's had, he's given everything he possibly can to this university and to these players. He's had toes amputated.
Did he get his bladder removed? Did
His
he?
bladder removed. His son is in a terrible situation over there in Cleveland. And a lot of times, what I don't understand is when we see coaches go through something, and they have a health scare, they have something that's wrong with their health, and they come back and their team loses, you don't ever really see people kill them for that. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not taking pity on them. They understand.
Exactly.
Hey, there's a lot going on here. It's not just all football. But with Deion, that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
With Deion, they're almost taking it as an opportunity to take a shot at him because he's so loud and confident and lets you know, like, we believe in ourselves.
He knows his worth.
He knows his worth. And so...
Steve, an effective defense here by RG3?
Wait a minute. I don't watch that show ever or a lot. When did she start talking? Is she now allowed to talk? Okay, so
she used to sit in the background. Now she's side by side, which I kind of enjoy. I got to be honest with you.
I don't know. She's no Ed McMahon. No, it's not an excuse. Because if you're not healthy enough to function as a head coach, don't be a head coach. Take a leave of absence, like Chuck Pagano did. And here's the reality. When you talk like Muhammad Ali, you better not fight like a tomato can. And he told us he was the greatest. First win, we talked about this a couple days ago, and it was a big focus of what you said 3 years ago. When he came out and jumped on Ed Werder, okay, well, you set the standard then. This is who I am, and we're going to win. We're coming, and do you believe? Okay, well, is RG3, I think he's being really, really either dishonest, disingenuous, or naive. The reason why Deion is the center of this type of, I don't know if you want to call it derision or criticism, is because he set himself up for it. Think about this, Jason. If he would have came into that press room after the TCU victory and he would have said, "Man, this is tough. Wow, I got a lot to learn, but what a fun thing. I might actually retire undefeated." Everyone would have laughed. If you would have been self-deprecating, said, "Guys, they overcame my mistakes. I'm going to get better, guys. But hey, it's 1-0. Let's enjoy it." But man, this coaching, everyone would have said, "Man, Deion, you're good." The way he came off was a direct 180. How do you think people are going to react to that?
No doubt. Steve, I want to move on. A couple of quick topics we can throw in a microwave here. NBA Finals, Game 7, OKC, Indiana Pacers. I think 16.6 million people tuned in to watch that. World Series Game 7, Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Toronto Blue Jays. 26 million people tuned in to watch it. People are making a big, big deal of this. Baseball is back. The NBA is dead. Is that the right read here?
Kind of, sort of, but don't you think having a team from LA matters? I mean, what if the LA Clippers, or especially the LA Lakers with LeBron, were in the NBA Finals, and let's say it was a World Series between two middle market teams, right? Pick anyone from the National League to go against Toronto. But Jason, I'll say this, as of right now, and this hasn't been the case for a long time, or maybe it has been the last 5 years, the Dodgers are the most popular franchise in LA. Yeah, I think throughout the Magic Johnson era, going all the way to Kobe Shaq, the Lakers won the most titles. They were the most popular franchise by far. They were the glue to the city, the one thing everyone rallied around. The NFL from 1995 all the way up to about, 7 years ago, was not in our city. So we have a whole lost generation of NFL fans. Hockey is still hockey. Okay, it's still just a secondary sport. USC football in the Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart era, that had a lot of buzz. Haven't been the same program. UCLA basketball, it's not really a thing. Even when it went to a few Final Fours, college basketball overall in a city like LA just does not resonate. But the LA Dodgers, it is now the coolest thing to do in terms of a sporting event in our city. I think that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I think that having Shohei Ohtani and having him pitching in Game 7 and some of the magical things he's done this postseason, it made people like me tune in and make Game 7 appointment television. SGA and Tyrese Halliburton, they're not the same kind of superstars as a Shohei Ohtani, and particularly with Shohei doing things we just haven't seen since the early 1900s. And so I think there's some extenuating circumstances. I do think baseball's playoffs in totality were amazing. I think the World Series, because of Shohei, amazing. The things that I'm uncomfortable with is like, I think from this, what is the guy's name? Yamamoto? Did I get that right? Yeah. And Shohei, you had to have interpreters out there for post-game interviews for both of these guys. And baseball's like really gone global, and it's not as American. But I think there's a tiny bit of truth in this, and that the NBA has lost its sway, and that the baseball has discovered something, particularly with Shohei, that baseball's on the rise. The NBA hasn't figured things out, but I think these numbers are somewhat distorted. Steve, let me move on to something that really interests me. I'm seeing people like J.J. Watt, who had to make a couple $100 million in the NFL. Yeah. Taylor Lewan, who probably made close to $100 million in the NFL. J.J. Watt, obviously an all-time great pass rusher. Taylor Lewan, a really good offensive tackle for a number of years in Tennessee. Both of these guys complained last night about Monday Night Football and the dispute with YouTube. J.J. Watt, so we're just not watching Monday Night Football, huh? I'm not buying another streaming subscription. Taylor Lewan, I refuse to purchase another streaming service in order to watch more games. I'll look up the score in the morning. Both of these guys' attitude reflected my own. I was like, man, I got an ESPN subscription of some kind, and I still can't watch this Monday Night Football deal. I've got so many subscriptions to things that I don't use that it is kind of like a line in the sand. It's not about can you afford it. It's just like enough is enough, man. You got to have 10 million subscriptions to watch what you want on TV. I think this is a problem for the streaming services and ESPN, and these sports leagues may have overplayed their hand just putting these games on any and everywhere.
Jason, as soon as I get done from this segment, you know what I'm going to go to? I'm going to buy stock in Fire Stick, whatever's a company. I'm just going to... This is ridiculous. Do you remember, and that's probably about, a dozen years ago, the whole thing was, Jason, cut the cord, stream, do a la carte. Guess what, Jason? I'm the rarity. I'm the guy that's still stuck with cable for the most part. Now, I still have Netflix. I have to have The Zone. I have to have ESPN Plus for my professional obligations with boxing, right? But I'm not getting any more. But Spectrum Cable throughout the years, I found it to be pretty good. I've got every network that I need and want. Although, 2 years ago, Jason, I remember right before the Utah-Florida opening Thursday night college football game, they had a dispute, and I didn't have it for a week and a half. So eventually, everybody has to pay more. And I mentioned this on Twitter last week. This always seems to happen right in the middle or the start of football season. And they basically extort our own love of sports and our need for football against us. But, there's ways around not having a platform that shows the game. There used to be a thing called a black box, Jason. It's like this mystical thing that I never saw that have every cable channel, right? Now these streaming services or networks, these pirate networks, when you actually log on, it's crystal clear. So there's ways around it, and I think we are driving people to things like Fire Sticks and illegal streams.
I'm actually enjoying, because has it been 4 or 5 days that we've now been without ESPN?
Yeah, about 4 or 5 days.
And it's like I'm kind of enjoying this because Again, I don't really enjoy ESPN in the first place other than game coverage. And now it's like I'm getting comfortable because last night I wanted to know the score of something or I wanted to catch a high. Literally this morning when I woke up, I was like, oh, I need to see some Cowboys, Arizona Cardinals highlights. And I thought
YouTube.
for a second I'll flick on ESPN.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I can't do that. And I'm kind of good with it. I want this to blow up in Disney and ESPN's face.
Jason, they do it, and these are basically licensed highlights now. The NFL's own website, about 20 minutes after game, will either have condensed game packages or other people will put together their own highlights. So you can watch a game in about 25 to 40 minutes. So a lot of the games that I miss while I'm out doing other things, like at another game, in about 3-4 hours, I could watch 7 or 8 games and say, okay, it's like a Cliff Notes version, but you could have it. But Jason, I relate it to this. During the pandemic, and for years, I had an LA Fitness or a Bally's membership to lift weights, work out, whatever I do, right? When they started putting in rules, when they shut down the club and then you had to wear a mask while doing your incline bench press, it got a little ridiculous. But during that period of time, I just started working out by myself at the fitness center downstairs where I live. Very, very sparse equipment, but I learned how to do body weight exercises. I bought my own pair of bands. When my membership ran out, I had gotten used to not going. And I don't ever feel the need to re-up my membership again. I actually think a lot of people are going to be like you, Jason, that a month or two, if this goes that long, they're going to say, you know what? My life is really not that impacted by not having ESPN. And I think that's the dangerous game that they're playing here.
Yeah, I can get my Stephen A. Smith stupidity from Twitter. Literally, yeah. I can get, if Ryan Clark wants to racialize something or whatever, someone will post it over Twitter, and that's enough for me. And I certainly don't, there are highlight shows that every show now has to feature a female host and a male host, and neither one of them are really any good. It's not like the old days when, seeing Dan Patrick or even Keith Olbermann break down a game, all these people are virtually irrelevant. And so ESPN's playing a dangerous game. I think people are saying they're trying to force people to the ESPN app and all that. I'm not sure if it's going to work because that is not my instinct, and I know I'm not the typical person, but that's not my instinct to download the ESPN app.
But hold on, Jason. How are you going to live without the vibe check? Well, by the way, what happened to that show? Is that still on?
Same way I lived this weekend, and I was shocked. It was hard. But, there were some college football games on ESPN that I did not get this weekend. And, I just watched what was available, and I checked the scores on everything else. That's the new reality that I'm capable of living with. Steve, finally, the Cowboys fell to 3-5-1 last night. The Cardinals beat them 27-17. Jacoby Brissett looked really good. And the Cowboys, and someone remind me, Hadley, it's Jacoby Brissett, it's Justin Fields, maybe Caleb Williams, and Russell Wilson. There's all these quarterbacks that have had black quarterbacks that have had great games against the Cowboys this year, and this terrible defense. It's like Jerry Jones, Black Lives Matters to his defense. They're doing all they can for black quarterbacks, and Jacoby Brissett got to eat off of them last night.
So is that the Underground Railroad defense? Is that what you're calling them? They're not exactly doomsday. They are so bad. They are a bad defense. It's like that old joke. Well, the Cowboy defense is only a few players away from being good. Yeah, Harvey Martin, Too Tall Jones, Randy White, and Everson Walls. And that's a bad defense. And unfortunately, I know people are talking about, do the Cowboys need to make a trade? Here's the reality. I think they're more than one player away. I don't even think Micah Parsons would have made a difference. Let me rephrase that. I don't know if he would have been enough of a difference to make this a playoff team that actually makes a deeper run. I don't want to minimize the impact of that loss. But it's really a shame because I know that Dak the last 2 weeks has tailed off, but they have a dynamic duo outside with Pickens and CD Lamb, and unfortunately, they're going to put up very big numbers, and they're going to be basically the NFC version of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, let me do some house. Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Bryce Young. Those guys, and now you throw in Jacoby Brissett. 70% completion percentage. Was it 29 TDs? Or it says 298 TDs, or 298 passing yards per game, 10 TDs, and just 2 interceptions. Maybe I should come out of retirement and play quarterback against the Cowboys. I'd look good too. Steve, unless you got more you want to say, I think we're done here.
I'm good.
All right.
I'm just glad that you and Matt came together. God,
That was tremendous.
And now if Colorado goes winless the rest of the year, which they might, you guys got to do this again. You guys have to do this again. And by the way, Joel Klatt, I'll give you a little credit. This is the way we do here. Arch Manning's playing better. See, we can all change. If I can change, you can change. Arch Manning is starting to play a little better.
We have reached out to Joel Klatt. We want to get Joel Klatt on the program. Let him eat a little crow or whatever he wants to do as it relates to Deion Sanders. I love Joel Klatt. I love Matt McChesney. I love Steve Kim. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. We'll play tomorrow. Oh, no harmony today because I owe you guys the Danny Kanell interview. And so I'm going to tape an interview with Danny Kanell here in a second, and we'll play it tomorrow. Thank you for being patient with us today. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone.